What the heck is the Esoteric Fraternity? Some would say it was and is some kind of New Age Christian Science sex cult. Members, of course, would argue, so let's dive on in. There was once a man named Hiram Erastus Butler. He was in the Union Army during the Civil War, building roads and bridges for the cause of the North. He was stationed at a hospital where he met a gal and they got married. And as soon as she bore him 2 children, he went to go get some milk at the store and must have forgot that he had 2 kids and a wife because they never saw him again. After that, he worked at a sawmill for a little while until he lost 3 of his fingers, one for each of the people he deserted, I guess. After this, he went into the woods for 14 years. Some records say only 40 days, so I'm not sure which. Either way, he appeared in Boston announcing that he was a prophet of occult wisdom, and he was now calling himself Adapaka, the Hellenic Ethnomedon. Yeah. He was a student of the Hermetic Brotherhood of Luxor and also Pascal Beverly Randolph, who taught sex magic rituals for a higher consciousness and spiritual knowledge, which is also who inspired famed occultist Aleister Crowley. Mr. Butler eventually came to the conclusion that semen retention and celibacy was the way to heightened consciousness and immortality, which is interesting because his group initiated women often, which the initiation wasn't very celibate. The Boston Herald reported in 1889 this: the full secrets of the inner circle, as the grade which students reached after a course of study was termed, will probably never be told to the public. And if all is said about this ring is true, a description could not be printed in any newspaper. One married lady of social prominence in the city studied at the college, believing its theories of occultism to be thoroughly trustworthy. After a course of investigation, she was believed to be worthy of introduction to the inner circle, and was told to prepare herself for initiation. She claims that she was compelled to submit indignities on the part of persons connected with the college, both by physical and psychological power. Being told that such work was necessary to free her soul from the bondage of evil passions, the lady finally became so disgusted that she resigned from the college and its inner circle and devoted herself to her home. But a short time afterward, her husband's suspicions were aroused in a startling manner, and his discoveries led her into a confession. The husband was almost heartbroken at the statement of his wife's unfaithfulness, and his first thought was to shoot the professor, Butler, who was calling himself Professor Hiram Butler. Friends, however, advised him not to do so, as justification would be hard to prove before a jury, and it was thought that the offender would be reached through court. 2 papers were then made against him, and one on a criminal charge of adultery and the other on a civil suit for alienating the affections of the wife. But the suits were ultimately not brought. One young woman has said that after being prayed over for 3 or 4 days, she was told to be ready to receive a visit from the Master in the astral body, he having journeyed from the Himalaya mountains especially to purify her. She was instructed to perfume her body with scented oil and wrap herself in a long, winding sheet, then pray unceasingly for delivery from passion. Perhaps the first night she was told the master would not appear, but on the second, a man of extremely venerable appearance would enter the room, and after he should converse and pray with her, she was to give herself up to the spirits. It is now reported that Professor Hiram Erastus Butler has left Boston for parts unknown. The parts unknown was the Bay Area. He was found running some store in Oakland, which the story still followed him. The local newspaper published this piece. A professional hypnotizer who was run out of Boston last year, and a man possessing an occult influence over weak-minded young men and women, who was using his magic powers under the guise of a species of theosophy to secure funds which he promises to build an esoteric college in the Santa Cruz Mountains. How well he is succeeding, no one knows, but Butler declares he has at least 500 converts in San Francisco. Famous mystic Helena Blavatsky said he was no better than a cheap pseudo-spiritual hustler, then went on to accuse him of siring astral plane children. Whatever the heck that means. In truth, Mr. Butler only had about 12 or so in his circle. He and his group bought a bunch of land over in Applegate, California, to build their self-sufficient monastic community commune. There, they built themselves a nice big 18-room, 4-story house, fruit business, and the Esoteric Publishing Company. They put out a bunch of books and a magazine. One of the books, Solar Biology, was the most popular and is where we get our modern astrology from. Those horoscopes that you hear people talking about, what sign they are and why a particular sign is why they're annoying, is based on this guy's book. He believed he was a reincarnation of somebody and was one of the chosen to be part of the Order of Melchizedek. The 144,000, just like him, would bring about the kingdom of God on earth. And though he believed or claimed to believe that being celibate would grant immortality and higher consciousness, he died at the age of 75. If you liked that clip, you'll love the full podcast. Make sure you're subscribing to Ricky Mortensen on YouTube.